One of the most fun things about being a part of the DBD community is speculating what might come next later down the road. So we know that Project W is what's next for Dead by Daylight. We know that a night killer seems to be what comes after that. But then we have this opening. What comes after those two, we're not entirely sure. Now, do I think it's going to be a licensed property? No, I don't. However, it's always fun to speculate about what the next license could be. And I think I've cooked up a pretty fun one. So if you will allow me, I'm Das Food, and I want to walk you through my idea for a dream DBD chapter. In a recent video, I made the case for why I would like to see Scooby-Doo join Dead by Daylight. And it was an entirely serious video. I wasn't joking. I really would like to see it. However, some people rightfully pointed out that there may be some tone issues with Scooby-Doo in Dead by Daylight. And you know what? Fine. I accept that. That is actually a completely valid way to look at it. However, I have come up with one that is kind of different in every way. So I see the Scooby-Doo idea everywhere. In fact, it is so prevalent that it popped up in one of Dead by Daylight's player surveys where they were asking, hey, which of these properties would you be excited to see come to the game? And Scooby-Doo was on there. So clearly they're aware of it. But what I don't recall being on there, and what I've literally never heard anyone talk about, is something that actually makes a lot of sense as a game that would come to Dead by Daylight, as a property that would come to Dead by Daylight, I should say, and that is Bethesda's Fallout. Now, you may think that seems a little outlandish, but let me make the case for it. Firstly, Fallout is kind of just like DBD in that it is bleak, it is depressing, but it's also goofy and actually kind of lighthearted. It really toes that line between those two moods, and I will argue that it's kind of leaned more towards the goofiness as the games have gone on, but you can't tell me that Fallout 1 wasn't like the bleakest game of all time. You can't tell me that Fallout 2 didn't nail dark humor. You can't tell me that Fallout New Vegas didn't toe that line well. They are still capable of doing this if and when they feel like it. It's just a situation where between the really great ones, you get the 3s and the 76s and the 4s that maybe aren't as good as the others. So we know that they fit tonally. I don't think anybody's going to push back and say, no, you know what? I don't think they fit tonally. I think that's an argument that really doesn't bear much in the way of... I'm not really keen to hear people argue about it because I think it's pretty straightforward. But how would it work? How would you implement it into the game? Well, firstly, and debatably most excitably, that's not it. The most exciting part of it would be getting the Wasteland as a map. Now, ideally, in an ideal world, we would get multiple maps set within a Wasteland realm, but I want to be realistic about it. I know that adding a map takes a lot of time and is one of the most tedious things about balancing the game that behavior has to deal with. So if they only gave us one, that would be fine, but I do think this would need to be a DLC with a map. Whether that map takes inspiration from Fallout 1, 2, 3, 4, 76, or New Vegas, it doesn't really matter. I think that for whatever you may praise or criticize about any of those games, I think generally the Wasteland stays this kind of darkly beautiful place, and I would just love to see that implemented. Now, could they go more specific and give us a named location from Fallout? They could, but I don't think that's the way to go, and I would really hope they wouldn't go with a vault because inside maps tend to be pretty painful. Even though I guess technically if they wanted to reuse the assets from the Hawkins lab map for Stranger Things, hey, who knows? I mean, stranger things have happened. So I would like to see the killer, speaking of Stranger Things, be a lot like the Demogorgon, because I love monster killers. And to this date, all we have in terms of monsters is Dredge and Demogorgon. And I think monsters are cool. So I would love to see the Deathclaw, which, by the way, is pretty straightforward. What do you call it? The Deathclaw. I mean, it's not like you can just say, oh, there's Bob the Deathclaw. No, its name is the Deathclaw. What would its power be? That's where it's kind of hard. What I would ideally, I say ideally a lot, I'm sorry. What I would ideally like to see with the Deathclaw would be some implementation of its egg-laying abilities, because Deathclaws lay eggs and they get super defensive around them. That's something that we see, really, New Vegas and Fallout 4 both really seem to kind of stress that a little bit. That Deathclaws are already hyper-aggressive, but they get even more aggressive around their nests. So I would think it would be cool if there was some kind of way that the Deathclaw could choose to lay an egg, and there would be some kind of consequence if the survivors didn't smash that egg. I think that would be fun. How exactly it would play out, look, I'm not good at game balance. That's not my job, so I'm going to leave that up to them. In terms of what the perks are, I don't entirely know. I mean, again, you the important thing is not the perks and the powers and all that. It's more just I'd be hyped if this joined the game. However, one that I did think would be cool is essentially open-handed, but for killers, because this is an apex predator we're talking about, so I would love to see its aura reading abilities be a little bit stronger with one of its perks. I think that'd be cool, but outside of that, I don't have much in the way of preference. Obviously, skins are always a big thing, and when it comes to the Deathclaw, I actually think they have a lot of options. I would go with the skin from Fallout 4 to be the base, just because I actually think it might be the best looking Deathclaw we've gotten yet, and overall, I think it's one that translates very well to the DBD aesthetic. After that, I think you could do an event skin where we get the Blighted Deathclaw, because Blighted skins are always cool. You could get an Albino Deathclaw as a rare skin, which again, is basically just a recolor, so I mean, that wouldn't take too much work on their part, but I think it would look very terrifying. And then, I would like to see some very rare skins. Now, one of these maybe shouldn't be very rare, I'll let you decide, and that would be a Fallout New Vegas / Fallout 3 Deathclaw. Because the Deathclaws look really different in New Vegas and 3 than they do in 4 and 76. It's a massive difference. So I would say let's have the kind of the OG, as far as the console generation is concerned, the OG Deathclaw as a skin that you could get. And then the other one, I would call the Winged Beast skin, or something to that extent. And it's a Deathclaw mixed with a Cazador. And I just had the idea off the top of my head. I was like, I wonder if somebody's made something for this. It turns out that's a super popular idea within the Fallout fandom, and there are all kinds of illustrations of that, and they look great. So I think something like that would be very natural. For the Survivor, Behavior would have this open book to just write whatever they want. They could come up with the lore for the vault, they could come up with whatever sick experiment Vault Tech was running on those poor souls, they could come up with the character that you get to play from that vault. So really, it could be anybody. I think Will is a nice name. I mean, that's a great name. They should probably go with that. But if not that, maybe Das Food. I don't know, whatever they want to go with. But anyway, they get to choose the name, the backstory, all that, and they get to pick the perks according to what it would be. Now, ideally, it's a Fallout character, so you would think that it's some kind of very survivalist type stuff, kind of Jake Park-like. But, you know, again, who really knows there? In terms of skins are... This one was only difficult because I had to narrow it down, right? This was so difficult because I started with, okay, so you give them a vault suit, right? Whatever it is, Vault 69, whatever it is, that's the vault they're from. Great, okay. And then I would say the very rares are pretty easy to pick. So I would go with one called Legionnaire, which obviously would be a Kaiser's Legion armor set. I don't think anybody would argue with that. I mean, you know, we got to spread the Legion not only throughout the Waste, but also throughout the Fog. We could have one called Initiate, and it could just be a Brotherhood of Steel uniform, you know, the orange jumper that they have, not the power armor. That would probably, you know, then a Survivor would definitely be the power rolled in. You could have one called Shadow Government, which would be an Enclave uniform, and I think that would be really cool. And then I had this idea for a rare skin called High Roller, and basically it's just Benny's jacket and slacks, and it gives your character a pompadour haircut. And all of that I think is pretty straightforward. Now, I do think with a series like Fallout, you would do well to have a very rare set that is a different character. And if I had to pick one character off the top of my head, I'm going to go Joshua Graham from New Vegas. Now, he's from the New Vegas DLC, but he's a favorite for a reason. And when I try to think of other iconic Fallout characters, I'll be the first one to tell you, I haven't played 1 and 2. I've watched playthroughs of them, but I've never actually played them myself. I'm not at all... I played 76, I didn't like it. Fallout 4, I thought the writing was pretty bad across the wall, but if you really want Preston Garvey, you could do that, sure. I don't have a problem with that. Fallout 3, yeah, I don't know. I think that in terms of characters, most of the really good ones were coming from New Vegas that I was thinking of. I tried to look up... I was going to include a picture of Sunny Smiles in here too, but I just want you to know, you degenerates, the pictures that came up when I searched for Sunny Smiles, degenerates like you belong on a cross. Shame. Shame. But the good news is there's no shortage of outfits you could give a Fallout character, because there are quite a few outfits that have become kind of series mainstays, at least to some extent. So, you know, just play Fallout 4, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, whatever it is, and, you know, you find all these different kind of casual things you could wear, and they could all be converted to DBD skins. And overall, I think that is a pretty open and shut case. This would be a real banger of a chapter. It fits the tone. It really does bring a pretty large audience over, by the way. I mean, Fallout's one of the biggest franchises in all of video games, and it has been for about 2 decades now. So I don't see a downside here. I think this one would be awesome. And if you're asking, well, why would Bethesda do it? Money. Bethesda likes money. I don't know if you know my man Todd Howard. I don't know if you know my buddy Todd, but Todd likes money. Todd is fond of money, and I don't think he would say no to this money. But those are just my thoughts on a chapter that I thought would be kind of cool. What do you think? Do you think this would be fun at all? Or do you think that it'd be better if they went for another, maybe Dead Space or some other gaming franchise? Because there are a lot of them out there, and I'd love to see them tap more into the gaming market. So I would love to hear what your thoughts are on that. But as always, I've been Das Food, and until next time, bye friends.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my